Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and I'm going to a baby shower this weekend where I need to bring a card. And if you know anything about me, you know I don't do store-bought, I don't do pre-made cards because why would I? It's so easy to make some yourself. So in this video, I'm going to show you a much requested tutorial because I happen to need one. I'm going to be making a baby shower card, and it is so simple, anyone can do it. Let's just jump right in. All right, for this tutorial, you're gonna need some watercolor paint. This is Stone Ground Paint Company watercolor paint. It does not have to be fancy. It can be any watercolor paint you want. In fact, it doesn't even have to be watercolor paint. You could use markers. It doesn't matter. Any art supplies you have are gonna work for this project. So don't overthink it. Just whatever you have, grab it. But in my case, I'm gonna be using watercolor paint, and I'm gonna be using like a light pink, a yellowish, and a light blue. That's really all we're gonna need. 3 colors, or whatever floats your boat, any colors you want. So watercolor paint or markers, whatever you have. If you're using watercolor, you're gonna need a brush, you're gonna need some water. And then I have a couple different writing tools. Again, you can use whatever you want for this project, but I have a Sharpie, a Micron 08, and a pencil. Then, of course, you're gonna need some paper to make your card. This is just watercolor paper that I took and folded into the shape of a card in a random size that I cut. It doesn't have to be fancy. Whatever paper you have, ideally some kind of cardstock or watercolor paper so that it's like thicker, like a card, and fold it into whatever size you want. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is unfold my card. I'm gonna grab my brush, my water, and my paint, and I'm literally just gonna paint circles. Okay, so I'm adding a lot of water, and I'm making a little puddle on my palette, and I'm just gonna add like a ton of water to it because we're gonna make these circles so light that we barely want any color. I actually grabbed way too much color, honestly, right off the bat. So I'm just gonna add a ton of water and then just kind of dip my brush just into the corner of it so I'm only getting a little bit of color. And then I'm gonna just jump right onto my card and start making circles. And you'll notice they're so light. I'm hoping they even show up on the camera, honestly, because they're so light, but that's the goal. And it'll dry a little bit darker, so don't be worried that you have to add more color. I find if you go really light with this, it's gonna look really cute, especially for a baby shower card. So add a little more paint to my brush and add more of these circles. And I'm doing them all the same size. You could do whatever you want. You could add some smaller ones, some bigger ones, but I like the look of them all being the same size. So if you're trying to copy me, that's what we're aiming for. So just continuing to add more water and more paint and putting these circles around the card. I'm gonna do some that go off the edge also, like as if they're just peeking through the edge. And they don't have to be perfectly evenly spread out. In fact, I want you to not perfectly spread them out. It looks nice when there's some beside each other in the same color. I know it's tempting to like try and make a pattern out of them and do like one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, you know, like trying to spread them out evenly. But I actually really like, and even we can overlap them. Maybe I'll put 2 pink ones like this. This one has too much pigment in it, so I'm going to actually just try to lift some of that off and use it in another spot. And it's okay if they are not all the exact same darkness. You can make them different. That's kind of the beauty of it. Some can be lighter, some can be darker, whatever you want. We're really just making like a super simple background for this card. I find little like pastel colors and light colors always look really cute for baby shower related things. So just adding until we feel happy with the amount of pink on here. And I mean, you could tailor this to if you know they're having a boy, if you know they're having a girl, if they have, you know, a theme color in their nursery, or if they have a color that they're kind of like leaning to in their baby shower theme, you know, whatever. You can obviously tailor it to that colors wise. And I want you to not be afraid to paint over the edge of this card because it actually looks really pretty when you have colors peeking out the edges once we fold it. So go ahead and do that. This is not very well folded, so my colors are kind of like, oops, I was a knot on the camera. Sorry, guys. But you get the idea. Paint on the edge here. But yeah, my card is not very well folded. I didn't really like make this very well. that's okay. It's handmade. Okay, I'm gonna do a few more pink ones. That one's pretty dark, but that's all right. And I'll probably do maybe like one more here. I'm not super overthinking the placement of these. It's just whatever happens, happens. And then we're gonna add, I need to get this little fiber off here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but whatever happens, happens. And as we add more colors, we'll fill it out even more and it'll just naturally unfold. All right, there's my first layer, my pinks. And now I'm gonna go in and clean off my brush. If your water is like really filthy, you could also clean your water so that this pink color doesn't muddy. I'm just touching up this circle here. I didn't love this one. It wasn't even around the edges, which is not a big deal, but it was bothering me. Okay, so clean off your brush, clean your water if you need to, and then now I'm gonna make a puddle of my blue. And this is kind of like a really dark blue. But I'm gonna add so much water to it that it'll end up being pretty pastel-y. So you'll notice I have this puddle, but I'm kind of just dipping my brush in the edge of it. I'm getting a tiny bit of the paint and mostly water. And then when I hop onto my card, it's really light. It's just like a muted pastel version of that blue. Okay, so I'm going to start doing the exact same thing, adding my blue circles throughout, keeping them all the same size for me anyway. You don't have to. Now I'm realizing I probably should have told you not to fold your card if you're using just watercolor paper and folding it into a card shape. It actually would have worked better if I hadn't folded it so I didn't have this fold to paint over here, but again, it's not a big deal. It just, if you had done this before and then folded it, you wouldn't have this like weird crease, but it's all good. Okay, another thing I like to do is I like to overlap my colors. And for this project specifically, I want my pink to be dry before I do that so that the colors don't blend together. So I'm gonna just overlap with ones that are already pretty dry, like this one down here. I'm gonna overlap a blue one with it. And if that pink had been still wet, the colors would have blended together and made like a purple, which is not really my intention. You can do that and it looks really pretty when they blend, but for this project, I'd rather see the pink through it. So this is called wet on dry. If you did wet on wet, they would blend together more. So really it's whatever you wanted to do, but personally, I just didn't really want those to blend. So again, adding them, like running off the edges. Some can be really close to the pink ones. Some can be overlapping the pink ones, whatever is making you excited in that moment. And you know what? I might actually leave it there for the blue. Now, here's another thing. If you end up with some watercolor kind of pooling, like you'll notice here on this blue one, there's some watercolor pooling in that corner, and I don't really want it to be that bright. You can dab it, and then you can go in and use your brush to kind of smooth that out in a second. So just get your brush full of water and not color, and just kind of go spread that out. Sometimes that pooling can look really pretty in watercolor, but it's just not the effect I wanted to go for this card specifically. So I think I'm gonna stop there with the blue. And now I'm gonna switch to yellow. Again, grabbing the color, making a little puddle on my palette, and adding a ton of water so that I'm just at the edge of that puddle, so that it's going to be really muted yellow. Okay, and then just jumping right in, adding my yellow circles. Keeping in mind as you do this too, that like that yellow is going to look slightly different when it dries. Right now it looks pretty I don't know, right now it looks different than it will when it dries. And sometimes I don't love the look when I first put it down, but when it dries, I end up adoring it. So just kind of go with it as you're doing this and know that it's going to look different once it's completely dry. Okay, here's a little trick. Now I'm looking at this and this circle looks a lot bigger than the rest. So if you wanted to change it while your watercolor is wet, it has to be wet. Wet a piece of paper towel and you can use it as an eraser. It has to be wet though while you're still doing it. And you can just kind of erase what you did. That's the beauty of watercolor. And now I can add that color to my brush again and just make a smaller version. There, I'm happier with that. Okay, continuing on, adding more and more. Okay, I was about to add one more circle, but I think I'm happy with this. I do like to leave some white space. Like I don't want the background to feel so heavy. So I actually think this is exactly where I want to stop. I don't know if you guys struggle with the same thing, but as an artist, when I'm doing stuff like this, I actually tend to struggle with where to stop more than how to do the actual art. I just like get carried away sometimes. So I'm going to stop there. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, I'm going to take my paper towel again because some of these yellow ones are like really wet and I just want them to be more faded than that. So I'm going to tap out a little bit of that color and go in with my like damp brush. It's not damp, that's dry. And spread it a little more. All right, I'm happy with that. Now I'm gonna let this dry until it's fully dry, and then we're gonna come back and add some letters to it. Okay, our card is dry. So now it's time to write whatever we want to on it. I'm gonna write hello little one. I just think that's really cute. You could write, hey baby, happy baby shower, congratulations, whatever you want, literally whatever you want. And what we're gonna do first is decide which side of this card we wanna write on. The fun part about this just being a pattern that goes across the whole card is you could fold it and have it this way, or you could fold it and have it this way. You could do it folding the other direction, whatever you want. Personally, because this is such a like faded, muted background, you're gonna write right on top of it. It doesn't really matter which side, but I don't know. Typically when I do these, I tend to favor one of the sides. I just seem to like one better. And for me, that's the side that I thought was gonna be the front anyway. So we're gonna write on this side, but choose whichever side of your card you want. And then we are going to just add our lettering. Now here's a little hack. Because you don't have guidelines on this, if you're doing calligraphy or hand lettering and you're feeling like, oh, I need my guidelines, you could just draw them in pencil, or you can do what I do and use my secret hack, which I have a whole video about, by the way, and I'll link to that. But this is a laser level. And what I'm gonna do is just turn it on and you can see it shoots a line across my card that'll give me a guideline for my letters. I actually think that it will look cute on this card to angle my letters a little bit and not necessarily keep them straight, which if you don't have a laser level or if you don't want to do guidelines, putting it on an angle on purpose is just an easier way to make it not look like you can't write straight. So that's another hack. But I'm gonna actually use this to put my letters on an angle. I'm gonna put them about there. And I'm just gonna use my pencil and rough in where my word hello is gonna go. If you're looking at this and you're like, I can't do calligraphy or I don't know how to do hand lettering, well, welcome to my channel, because that's pretty much what I always teach. Calligraphy and the basics of calligraphy are my bread and butter. So if you're looking to learn that, you're in the right place. I can absolutely teach you, so check out the rest of my channel. But for now, if you can't do calligraphy or if you don't feel like you want to do it in that style, just do block letters. Whatever you do on here is going to look cute. So hello, and now I'm going to write little one in little block letters. You could also skip the pencil step of this if you feel really confident in your lettering, or if you want it to just look super whimsical, and not so methodical, then go ahead and just do it. Jump right in. But I'm pretty happy with the layout of that. Sometimes I'm not, and sometimes I erase it and try again, but I like that. So now I'm going to take my Sharpie, and because this is watercolor paper, if you've done calligraphy, you know, if you use brush pens on watercolor paper, it can tend to fray your brush pens because it's rough paper. So that's why I'm using a Sharpie, and I'm going to do faux calligraphy, which I also have a video on. If you've never done faux calligraphy and you want to do that, you want to test that out before you do your final letters on this card. But basically I'm doing the outline of my letters. And then I'm going to go back and add some thicknesses where the downstrokes would be. And if you're hearing that and you're like, I have no idea what those words mean, downstrokes, it's a calligraphy term. And I would love to teach it to you if you've never learned it before. This might look fancy and a little bit tricky to do letters like this, but it's totally doable. Your handwriting does not matter. I'm happy to help you. Check out what I can offer you for sure. Okay, so there's my word hello. Now I'm going to use my fine liner, my micron pen, and do the smaller letters with this. I could just use my Sharpie. If you only have one pen, absolutely go for that. I like the line weight of this a little better. It's just a little more delicate. There we go. And I just have this feeling that it'll look cute with a little heart. A, I think that looks cute, but B, I feel like it helps this look a little more centered under my word hello. So that's pretty much it. If you can see any of your pencil lines peeking out, go ahead and erase those gently because you don't want it to smudge anything underneath. And there you have it. The cutest, simplest, adorable little handmade touch for whoever you're going to a baby shower for. Like I said, you can personalize this as much as you want. You can also just use markers. And if you didn't know, you can use Tombow or any watercolor-based markers to draw your circles and actually just add water to them and make them look like watercolor. So feel free to do that if you don't have watercolor paints. But this can be done in so many different ways with so many different tools. Just this idea of adding a little handmade touch to a card instead of getting a store-bought one. If you're here watching this, I think you agree with me. Handmade above all. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have tons more like it on the channel, so I'm gonna link you to one I think you're gonna like next, and I'll see you over there.